From Pocketnow.com, this is Pocketnow Weekly.
Hello, and welcome to episode 006 of the Pocketnow Weekly, the once-a-week podcast from Pocketnow.com, where we discuss news and opinion from the world of mobile technology, from smartphones to tablets to phablets, everything in between. I'm your host, Michael Fisher, contributing editor at Pocketnow. As always, I'm joined by our managing editor, Anton D. Nadja. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good morning to you guys. Good morning, everybody.
And back with us again this week, Editor-in-Chief Brandon Miniman. Good morning, my Pennsylvania friend.
Hey.
Guys, we are back as a team. We have no guest this week. Joe joined us last week. We're going to have some more guests in the future. But first things first, I'm recording from a special location this week, listeners, on a different computer with a different microphone. So if I sound different, that's why. I'm also in a different room because I'm in Long Island, New York, where I'm working from this week, which will become relevant again in a second. Second things I'd like to announce, very excited to announce that we are on Stitcher. The Pocketnow Weekly podcast is now available on Stitcher. If you have not heard of that application, it is available on, WebOS, but also Android and I believe iOS. I discovered it on WebOS in 2009, and it's a really great podcasting app if you are a fan of streaming instead of downloading files directly. So we are officially on Stitcher. Also, just in a little bit of site news, the Android Guy Weekly video series, Joe Levi's series, has been sort of promoted to version 2.0, I guess you'd call it. It's now called Android Power User. It's still hosted by Joe, but it's got a lot of new sort of deluxe features, and it's way more awesome than it already was. So it's sort of changed its focus from a video editorial column to a show that aims to turn regular Android users into Android Power users. Am I getting that right, Brandon? Tony?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. So you should check it out, listeners, if you have not already. It's awesome. Joe is awesome. And things are awesome. It's sunny here. It's nice. I'm in a good mood. And go ahead, Brandon.
How did you know I was about to say something?
I heard your sharp intake of breath.
No, that's crazy. I think the purpose behind the Joe's Power User series is for someone to literally start at the beginning, and every video sort of builds upon the previous video. So it can be like a sort of guide to just learning more about Android.
So it's like a serial, like it's like a serialized television show.
Right.
Where it's like, watch the beginning episode and then watch it all the way through. We also, listeners, have a lot of listener mail today, which is awesome. Thank you so much for it. We're not going to get to all of it because there actually is quite a bit more than there was last week, and we really love these pieces of mail, and we'll find a way to answer the ones we don't answer on the air, but we kind of have to be quick. So before we get started, Brandon, do you have anything before we begin?
I do actually have something. And it's actually it's more like a question for you, Michael, and I don't think Tony would actually uses this app that I'm about to talk about. So I look on Facebook and I see often Michael Fisher posting pictures, and the pictures are always that brownish color, which means it was taken with Instagram. And I emailed him the other day and I said, Michael, why not just post the clean picture? And Michael said, well, it's got a bunch of fun photo filters. And I said, okay. So I took out my 1X and I went into the camera app, and it had a bunch of fun filters. I went into the Galaxy S3 into the camera app, and it had a bunch of fun filters. Then I thought back to the HTC Touch Diamond of 2005 or 6, and that had a bunch of interesting bunch of photo features. So my question is, really? What is it about Instagram, number one, and number two, why is it better to post a brown picture than a clean picture? I don't get Instagram.
I will answer myself after, Michael. Just so you know, I do use, but not Instagram. I use something else.
Okay. Well, for me, I didn't know what Instagram was until it was ported to Android, and then I wrote an editorial about it. It was probably one of my first ones in my first month, and Instagram at first glance is about the filters, and some people hate it because it kind of makes people feel as though they can compose artsy photographs when they can't. And, I'm included in that. I'm an amateur completely. And so, that's what people first think about when they think of Instagram. It's like, oh, that's how you make digital photos look like they've been sitting out in the sun for 20 years. which is great, and that's cool and that's hipstery and whatever. That's not why I love Instagram though. I use Instagram because of the social network that backs it up, which I really hope Facebook doesn't destroy, because I've learned that when you post photos on Instagram and you hashtag them so they're indexable and searchable, you can do that. I always attach like 20 hashtags to my photos, and it's like, this was taken in Greenport, Long Island, or this was taken in, Boston, and you tap Boston as the hashtag, and every other photo that anyone has taken on Instagram with the hashtag Boston shows up, and it's like, oh, wow, yeah, I've been there, and oh, what other photos do you have, random user? Oh, they're amazing too. Hey, let's follow each other and just see photos. The simplicity of that model is just like, you are posting photos, other people are posting photos are pretty to look at, let's everyone look at each other's pretty photos. That's what I love about Instagram.
So how often do you sit there and click on the Boston hashtag or category and look through other pictures people have taken? Does this happen once a week for you, or is it more often or less often?
Like it used to be like a once a week thing. Now it happens daily. I mean, now I'm kind of more obsessed with Instagram than I have been with Facebook or with not with Twitter. Twitter it still blows away everything
So
else.
we've noticed.
No, it's true. I mean, but it's because it's fun. Like, it's simple. There's nothing, people aren't generally using it to post apps or games or all the other crap you can run into on Facebook. It's just photos. And it's
the same. It's the same kind of thing. Like why one would look through their Twitter stream and see what other people are doing. It's the same kind of thing.
It's the same kind of thing. But if you're lazy or if you need more stimulation, I love reading, I love text, I love writing. But sometimes you just want to look at a picture and you don't want to read words. And Instagram is perfect for that.
Interesting.
Are you not on it, Brandon?
I downloaded the app and I signed up. I think I don't really know if I actually signed up. But
so no, effectively you're not. You are not a user.
I'm not a user, but I might become one because you sound pretty intrigued by it and you use it a good bit. So I might take a look.
Yeah, I can get pretty effusive about Instagram. What about you, Tony? What's your response there?
I've signed up and I gave it a shot, but what I didn't like about Instagram is that it only allows you to apply filters while cropping the picture to a square format.
Isn't that annoying?
That's really something I really don't like. So I'm using an application which is in my top 3 applications for iOS. It's called Camera Plus. It's an application which not only allows you to take great pictures because it has options like separate metering for focus and light, but it also has some, how should I say, hipster or aged picture effects, which occasionally I like to apply. Of course, not on all of my pictures, every 10th or 15th. I love taking photographs, and I have something similar on the Nokia 808 PureView. So I'm using effects, but not for a social purpose, but only for my personal purpose of having a picture look aged and composition and lighting and the artistic stuff.
I should say that actually there is that feature of Instagram that they call Luna or whatever they call it that I don't know. I don't know what it's called, but it just applies this artificial HDR kind of effect to it. And a lot of times it looks crappy, but sometimes it just makes an okay photo into a
Depends
really
from frame
beautiful
to frame.
photo. Yeah, it does. So, sorry, Brandon, were you going to say something?
Oh, well, Tony was talking about Camera Plus, and I think that was actually one of my first iPhone apps, and it interestingly let you map the Volume Plus button to take the picture, which, of course, Apple integrated to iOS 5. But
right.
is that the same app, Tony?
Yeah, exactly. And they turned it off and now switched it back, so it's available again.
Awesome. It's got a nice icon. Very pretty.
And the only problem is that it's not fully integrated. Like when you go to the lock screen on the iPhone and you have that camera icon, which you can slide up in a Windows Phone 7 style, it just doesn't integrate with that. But that aside, it's awesome.
It's not Android, man.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
Definitely not. I have a small rant myself at the beginning. I'll try to keep it short. I'm not sure whether to laugh this off or to be pissed about it. Regardless of what phone or tablet I'm using, regardless of make, model, platform, whether if it's European/UK or a USA version. So I'm always 2 or 3 updates behind. Of course, this is happening because probably I'm committed to stock, and this would be a textbook example used by probably the Android power user you mentioned of how to not stick to stock or why not to stick to stock. But I'm always behind. And Jaime shot me an email the other day and he asked me about, hey, Tony, did you get the update on your HTC One X? And I said, guess what? I'm still 2 updates behind. Did you get this update for the Galaxy S3? No, I did. I just got the update which brings the light display brightness slider to my notification tray. So no, I'm always 2-3 updates behind. And rant.
Why? I mean, these are OTA updates. They're safe and official. Why aren't you updating your phone?
I'm not getting notifications. I'm always getting no update available for your current device.
Is that because of your location? Is that because you're in Romania?
I'm not sure. Maybe it has something to do with that, but I'm using European UK phones. So it should be, maybe they're seeing a SIM card, which is, of course, located in Romania, but the ROM itself is UK ROM. And once UK gets the rollout, I should get it too. Guess what? I'm not.
Do you think that I mean, I don't know much about the OTA, the back-end OTA stuff, guys. Like, are the OTA pushes dictated by where your device is actually located? Or
I think it depends on the ROM you are using, and because there are several ROMs for different regions, I think that the system looks at the region you are in and the region which is running, the region code of the ROM you're running on your device.
That's curious. I mean, I've been thinking about that a little bit more recently because I wrote that piece on emergency broadcast text messages, which aren't text messages at all. They are, a different format, and they're sent not to you based on your phone number or where your phone is expected to be, but what cell your phone is actually connected to. So I wonder if it's something like that.
Operator messages, you say?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, they're operator messages. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm not sure you guys have this in the States. Here in Romania, and I'm sure lots of other regions too, we have this thing on a local carrier that depending on which cell tower you are connected to, the phone displays not only the carrier name, but also the neighborhood you are in, and sometimes the street name. So each cell tower has a specific name to it, and it's usually carrier minus and the neighborhood, or carrier minus street name.
No, like there was a
I've never seen that.
there was a whole underground industry of forum members on message boards here in the States who would go out and map their local cell sites just so they would know when they had coverage. Because I would love to have that, but no, we don't. I did that once, actually. It's fun. You just go to the base of a cell site and look at the signs on it, and you're like, oh, that's what carrier's on this thing. If you're a real pro, you can look at the panels, but I can't do that. Anyway, so let's move on. I mentioned a little earlier that I'm on Long Island. Part of the reason for that has become that it's much closer to New York City than Boston, and that came in handy yesterday when I attended the Galaxy Note 10.1 launch event, which I posted about today and yesterday, and it's just been kind of the big news of the middle of the week. I attended alone. I've talked a little bit to Tony and Brandon about it, and I covered it, and I had a really great time, and I met some cool people. The device, I just don't know what to think about the device yet. I was waiting in line for a review in it, and one of the Samsung guys was kind of talking to me, and he asked me, well, what did I think? And I was like, this is one of those things where I think I need a solid week with it to even decide how I initially feel about it.
So it's lacking the wow factor.
Yeah, it doesn't have a giant wow factor for me, no. But, there have been other devices that have been like that, like the Nexus 7, where I was like, I do not care about this, and I don't want to write about it. And then it comes to my door, and I'm like, oh, this is great, So I'm hesitant to say that it's a disappointment, because it's not. It's not a disappointing device to me. It's just something I'm not sure about yet. I am glad, in one respect, that it is not a Galaxy Tab with a stylus tied on, like it was, I think, when you saw it, Tony, in Barcelona. Was that the case, this initial pass at it?
No, the outer aspect of the tablet has remained unchanged, so it's basically the same casing which I saw in Barcelona.
With the front-firing speakers and all?
Yeah, and that's because of the lawsuit, which is between Samsung and Apple, and it originated the idea from Germany when they came up with the Samsung Galaxy Tab 10.1N, which was the first one, if I recall well, to have front-facing speakers. And of course, to avoid future litigation, they probably applied that as a standard to future tablets.
Oh, that was the Galaxy. That was the Galaxy Tab 10.1N. That was the first one with the front-firing speakers that are.
If I recall well, yes.
Yeah, I think you're right. See, that is something that I want to talk about in the future, and not too far in the future. I love front-firing speakers. Like that alone, that feature alone on a phone or a tablet will instantly boost it a point just in my personal scaling system, for my personal use. Yeah, speakers around back are a necessity at the moment, and they are just one of the worst things ever, though. Like whenever I'm watching Netflix on a tablet or on a phone, which is often, having to do that stupid thing where you cup your palm around the back of your
yeah. Do it all the time.
You guys do that too?
Sometimes I'll go into the kitchen and get a bowl and try. And at that point, I'm just like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to watch this on TV.
No, it's just nuts. And unless you want to put in headphones, when I used to work at Nextel, the display tables for the phones had holes in them, and there were holes with steel pipes that we could put the phone mounts into. And at any given time, there were many empty pipes. So we would take these Nextel phones with these giant aft-firing speakerphones, which were just absurdly loud. And you put them over one of these pipes in the table, and it was like a poor man's subwoofer. It was ridiculous.
On that same note, I'm sure many of our listeners who have the LG Optima 7 first wave Windows Phone know this, but LG decided to go with a joint speaker/headset. So the same speaker is used when you are talking to somebody for listening to their voice, and the same is used when you are listening to music via Zune or Spotify. So it's a front-facing speaker.
Oh, yeah, that's really cool. This is all going to be a much more interesting conversation when that bone conduction stuff starts happening.
Yeah.
In earnest, but that's for a future discussion, I think. Anyway, we're going to have to see what we kind of think about the Galaxy Note 10.1. I don't know the details on that. It was a very fun event. It was run very well. I got to see Baz Luhrmann speak.
I love the Sunscreen song.
Yeah, as do I. And Tony, have you heard that one, or is that a uniquely American or Australian and American?
Most probably, yes. I haven't heard.
I'll have to
that
send
helped
that
me
one.
That helped me get me through my childhood. That song, the Sunscreen song by Baz Luhrmann. He's an actor, right?
Baz Luhrmann is a director. He is that song. I believe the lyrics were written. This is the Sunscreen song, listeners, if you want to look it up. It's a fun little novelty song. He's a director. He directed Moulin Rouge and Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's currently directing something of prominence coming up. So Samsung had him come out on stage and kind of talk about how he ostensibly uses the Galaxy Note 10.1 with stylus, as he kept referring to it. In his creative process. So he was, I use the Galaxy Note 10.1 with stylus, when I'm around the film set, and it was cool. Like his in-person presentation was pretty awkward. He even said, to the president of Samsung Electronics at USA, he was like, "You're going to have to call cut on me because I just ramble and I don't really say anything worthwhile." And but on the video they shot with Baz, he was scouting locations for his latest project, and he's using the Note 10.1 with stylus, and he's taking pictures of locations, and then sitting with his wife, the production designer, and doodling on the photos as sketches, we want to hang curtains here and do all this stuff. And he says it's. I wrote about it in today's piece, where he's like, it's a creative toolbox for creative professionals, and
I think he'd be better off just using an Etch-a-Sketch than the Tab 10.1. I mean, it's far cheaper, and it's got a higher contrast display than what they put on the 10.1.
By the way,
oh god, the DPI is pretty rough. Go ahead.
Display, Michael, how is the display on the 10.1? Because the display on the Galaxy Tab 10.1, which I had and I still have laying around here, is terrible. And in February, when I met the Galaxy Note 10.1 in its back then iteration, it wasn't that good.
It's not that good.
Okay.
When you're using it in the hand, you can't really notice it. If you're me, and I don't really care about resolution or anything like that, but even if you're me, you look at the thing just a little too close, or if it's on a giant projection display at the announcement and they're zooming in on icons, it's like, whoa.
And the colors and contrast, because my problem was that there were absolutely no blacks. There were only grays, and there were huge backlight bleeding problems.
Yeah, well, it is a conventional LCD on there. I think it's not a a giant AMOLED panel or something. So so that it's not an impressive display. It gets the job done, but not well. So
can't wait for the next wave of tablets. I mean, this is just I was watching some videos of it and watching your hands on, Michael, and it doesn't look fast, and it's got that quad core Exynos. Like, what's up with that?
Yeah,
it's still ice cream sandwich, Brandon. Just wait for it to get Jelly Bean.
It'll get Jelly Bean. Yeah, and hopefully that whatever Samsung does with TouchWiz on top of Jelly Bean won't mess it up too much.
Is this TouchWiz UX Nature, the new one, which is on the S3?
Yeah, like it has some of those same effects, like on the lock screen. You draw the unlock trace and it does the water pattern and stuff. And maybe it was just me, maybe it was just to my eyes where I was looking at it, and it didn't. It seemed like they just took elements from Nature UX and put it onto an existing tablet TouchWiz build. Mm-hmm. And at the presentation, they really didn't make a big deal about. They certainly never said it was a Nature UX, or at least if they said it, I missed it, and I think so did everybody else. So I don't think they're calling it that, but they did bring over a lot of features from the Galaxy S3 and from the earlier Note.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so Smart Stay is on it, which I think is pretty cool. I didn't get to test that out, but I know it's installed. And
I hate Smart Stay. Aside from the fact that
you think it's creepy.
It's staring at you. The only time when I can think of Smart Stay being useful for me is when I lay in my bed and I'm reading either in the morning or in the night. And guess what? Smart Stay is not working at night because it can't see your face.
Very true. I know. I guess it's more accurate to say I love the idea of Smart Stay. I love its potential, but I agree. That is a giant handicap.
Just put an infrared beam on it. You can't see it. The camera can see your face, and boom, there's your solution for night operation.
Well, speaking of infrared, there's that giant infrared port up top, which I did misidentify in my YouTube video as a micro USB port because I was in a rush. But so Samsung has done this like
very useful
market research, where they're like. They found that most people, when they're sitting watching TVs, and if they're doing something else while they're watching TV, it's probably on a tablet. And I get that because but it's what, you don't think? I mean, it's true for me. It made sense to me because I sit there and watch TV, and I'm like, oh well, I'm using my tablet while I'm watching TV. You don't do that, Tony?
No,
no. I have no time for that nonsense. No.
They're bringing back the stylus. They're bringing back infrared. Come on, what's next?
Well, I mean, I agree. The infrared blaster in and of itself is just like this. Like, why did you put this on there? You're just being like Samsung. You're just throwing stuff on here. But no, they custom wrote this like remote control app, or maybe they bought a company that wrote a remote control app, and it's installed on there, and it's like. All right,
of course, you have to have a Samsung Smart TV, I guess.
They said I thought so too, but the president, Mr. Baxter, was like, yeah, of course we'd prefer that it would be a Samsung TV, but no, it works with all of them. So, anyway, so that was fun. It was a fun event.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah. Everyone look for more on the 10.1 as we get some more time with it. But while we're still on Samsung, I want to ask you guys about this because I haven't played with it. There's been a leaked official Jelly Bean ROM for the Samsung Galaxy S3. What's the story on this? Is this still out there and available?
Yeah, that happened today, and so it's the TouchWizified Android 4.1 update. And you know what? I haven't tried it yet. I actually might load it on today, make a video about it. But it seems to be a pretty big improvement. It's amazing. Samsung kept the 2-second home screen delay thing. They didn't fix that.
Yeah, it's for S-Voice.
That's for S-Voice, yes. But it looks like an improvement, which is very encouraging because we were speculating in previous podcasts, when Jelly Bean comes around on these devices, is it going to maintain the fluidity? And the answer is yes. I guess it's just so deep that, it's not going to be impacted. But it's still TouchWiz, and, my personal preference would be to run stock Android via, a third-party ROM, but that's just me.
Sure. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it because I'm like Tony. I like running my stuff pretty stock or pretty close to stock, and I like the improvements that have been built into the new TouchWiz. So I'm very excited to see how that works on top of Jelly Bean. especially on my Galaxy S3, which, by the way, has become my daily
your
driver.
daily driver.
Yeah, listeners, I go boating sometimes on account of having grown up on Long Island, and so I broke my Galaxy Nexus LTE, which I
No.
yeah, you didn't know? I didn't. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I'm
we
sorry.
should have held a funeral.
It was a Verizon phone, man, so it doesn't really count.
Yeah, I broke my fake
Oh, that's
Galaxy
not nice.
Nexus. Right, exactly. Yeah, if I'd broken a real one, I'd be really pissed. But no, it was my Galaxy Nexus LTE, and I sat on it wrong and shattered the display. So it works, but I'm not going to be one of those people who walks around with a shattered display. I mean, it's just.
Do you guys remember those stickers on the screens back 2 or 3 years ago, which said, "Do not put it in your back pocket. Do not sit on it"?
Oh
Yeah. That's
no, I never got a phone with that kind of user warning, but I should have apparently.
I think the HTC Touch HD and the HD2 had that.
Oh,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah, I didn't have either one of those, so that's well,
So-
I should have.
You should, yeah.
I know.
That was before Gorilla Glass.
Yeah, and now even with Gorilla Glass, I just break it and scratch it all the time. So whatever.
Yeah, Gorilla Glass, it's got so much hype behind it, but it still does crack. And then Gorilla Glass 2 on the Galaxy S3. Did you guys see that video where someone took a iPhone 4S and a Galaxy S3 and dragged it behind a car?
And those videos are lame.
I heard about
I
that.
never watched those.
No, they make me hurt in my heart. Like I don't like watching those videos where they beat up electronics. It makes me feel very sad.
Me too. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Well. Anyway,
What happened? What happened to Gorilla Glass 2? Yeah.
Well, what happened is that they picked up the iPhone, which was destroyed, and then they picked up the Galaxy S3, which seemed unharmed, which I find hard to believe. My Galaxy S3 already has a couple of surface scratches, and I'm pretty careful with my phones. So, I think Gorilla Glass can be hit or miss. I think it's impact resistant. It's supposed to be scratch resistant. I did a video one time where I took a razor sharp kitchen knife and applied it to one of the first Gorilla Glass screens. I think it was, what was that?
I think it was the iPhone 4, man.
Oh, jeez.
Maybe.
Or
and-
I don't know.
It's like nails on a chalkboard. It just feels bad. So what happened? You managed to scratch it pretty well, I imagine.
It didn't scratch. I actually think I gotta find that video. I think I successfully scratched a non-Gorilla Glass a device with an older, that I didn't care about that much. But
Okay.
what the Gorilla Glass object didn't scratch with a really sharp knife, and I got pretty aggressive with the screen. Like we went crazy together, me and the screen.
This entire Gorilla Glass thing is just like titanium. My watch is made of titanium, and titanium is one of the strongest materials out there, and you just really can't break it, but you can scratch it with your fingernail.
Yep.
So I think the Gorilla Glass is the same. It's strong, but it has that internal tension, which is released once you get it hit in a certain angle with a certain velocity, and then it's just physics.
Right, and
Right.
I've noticed the same amount of scratching on my Galaxy S3 in particular on the display. I feel like you can do these things where you do these tests where you scratch it with the screen with a knife, or you try and do that, and Gorilla Glass maybe or other hardened glasses actually handle that a little better than actual just real world use, like taking it in and out of a pocket with say a rivet, like a riveted seam on jeans or something, or just keeping it in your pocket with other stuff, which I try not to do. So that's why I tend to like those pocket tests where they throw in a phone into a bag with a lot of like pocket change and stuff like that. But anyway,
That's a good test.
yeah. Well, you can fight that with things like building your phone casing out of Kevlar and stuff, which leads us a little ways into this story. Very briefly, this Droid Razr HD, which we keep hearing more and more about.
phone.
The biscuit phone. And there's the latest rumor here that it's going to arrive without an accompanying Max version. For those of you not familiar with the Razr Max, it is the Motorola Droid Razr just with a giant battery slapped on, and it's one of my favorite innovations in Android, to be honest. Guys, I'm infuriated. If this is true, I am just going to blow my top because the Max version of the Razr is the only other Android phone from Verizon I would consider buying because it has that incredibly long battery endurance without the need for an extra battery or a battery case or whatever. What do you guys think? Are you super disappointed, or do you not care that there's not going to be a Max version of the Razr?
Brandon loves the device.
I don't like Motorola phones that much. I still haven't found one that has won me over. So I don't really care.
Because you wouldn't buy it anyway.
I wouldn't buy it anyway. It doesn't look nice to me, and it's got an interface that I don't like, and so on.
Gotcha. What about you, Tony?
I don't think that the rumors are true, but even if they are true, then I think Motorola will at one point release a Max version because the market really wants it. Brandon had a video on it, and when I said Brandon loved the phone, I actually said that, or I meant to say that he loved the battery life on that. It was actually the first time I heard Brandon praise a phone for its battery life, and it's really true. I mean, close to 3,000 milliamp hours gives you 1.5-2 days of juice, which in today's world is excellent.
Absurdly excellent. Yes.
Yeah.
It's absurdly excellent, but I think most people care that the phone will last through the day. And of course, there are those extended days that we've all had where you wake up early in the morning and you're going out late at night, and by the time you're ready to leave to go out at night, your phone's at like 13%. You're like, oh, I gotta plug in.
Yeah.
But you can kind of anticipate that, right, and charge it up in the middle of the day. I'd rather have a thinner phone that has 1 day battery life than a thicker phone or a heavier phone or wider phone that has 2 or 3 day battery life. It's just like, it's not worth it to me.
You were in those HTC focus groups, weren't you?
No, they didn't invite me.
One thing which right now is fitting the image perfectly, I'm preparing to drive to Berlin. It's going to be a 15 hour drive, and I hate charging my phones with any charger. I'm used to only using their own particular charger because of the currents. It's a topic I'm going to go into detail with another podcast, but just to get to the point, when you are driving and navigating, it just eats battery insanely. I mean, 2 hours is max which you can get. So I'm going to be going with 4 devices and my laptop just so that I can reach Berlin in time. So yeah, I would need a Max.
Can't you just plug in, while you're driving with a car charger?
Yeah, I don't want to use a car charger because it charges whatever current it wants to charge. It's not stabilized current. It charges only with 100 milliamp hours, and if my battery is 2,500 milliamp hours, that's not good, and stuff like that.
Well,
What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, because
you need to charge your phones with approximately 10% of current of your current battery. So if you have a 2,500 milliamp hour battery, the optimum charger would be the 250 milliamp hour battery charger for around 8 or 9 hours. Of course, I'm going to go into much detail when probably I will write a technical editorial about this.
You beat me to it.
Okay, you can do that.
No,
but,
I want you to do it. I just want the answers. I don't want to do any of the research. You do the work. I just want to read it.
Okay, so we are using fast chargers nowadays, which are okay, but think of, Brandon, any 4 of your current phones. They have different battery types, right? 2,500, 2,700, 1,300, stuff like that. Charging all of your phones with one charger will probably, on the long term, kill your battery.
Well, I mean, I'd love to see some data to that effect, because when I go into the car and my phone needs juice and it's at 50%, I plug it in. By the time I park at my destination, I'm at 65%. I just increased my battery and the amount of juice I have. That's all I see. That's all I care about.
Okay, so check this out. When I had the I had the HD2 and I used that to navigate. I had the charger, and with that charger being plugged in and navigation started, the phone still depleted and the battery was super hot. I could fry eggs on it.
Yeah.
But the same charger worked with other phones.
We used to when we sold car chargers, we used to sell them with the sales point that this will charge your phone faster, because they generally do, because of that voltage or wattage differential, whatever it is, compared to a wall outlet, because I think it's DC and there's no I don't know what the technical reason is. Go ahead, Brandon.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah, sorry. I read about this in depth back in the day at a site called batteryuniversity.com, which I will sort of shamelessly pimp, because it's an awesome site to get to know a little bit about lithium-ion battery chemistry and stuff, which sounds really dull, but what it really comes down to is the site is listen, this is what happens when you charge your battery. This is what happens when you charge your battery well, and when you don't charge your battery well, and how these things prefer to be stored and why. And, it helped me understand a lot of things, like why phones often come out of the boxes with half charge, because that's where lithium-ion prefers to be for long-term storage. As
40%.
Exactly, 40%, as opposed to fully charged or fully depleted. And anyway, so that's a cool site. And I agree, Tony. I think you should write
I just miss my nickel cadmium batteries with memories.
NiCad battery.
The ones that leaked battery acid all over you.
Yeah.
The good old days.
Tony, I'm going to bet that you're the kind of guy that will get a new electronic and will cycle the battery up to 100. You'll go down to 0, even if that means you're playing a YouTube video at full brightness while you go take a shower or something.
Actually, I do that.
I do that too.
I do that once a month because lithium-ion and lithium polymer batteries don't have that memory effect. But it is good to keep the current flowing every now and then,
and to keep the battery meter calibrated as well.
Yeah, once a month, absolutely.
You must also use disk defragmenter on a regular basis, don't you?
Not anymore. I've evolved. I'm running SSDs now.
All right, fair. All right. Well,
but yes, I do have 5 or 6 different wall chargers laying around, depending on what type of phone I'm using, and I'm plugging always the phone in its respective charger.
Yeah.
Imagine my Berlin bag.
It's so funny because I love the diversity we have. You guys seem to care tremendously about battery handling, and I don't really care about that as long as it works. And yet I care about having like a really good software experience that's not stock, and you guys prefer to have stock because you don't care to. It's interesting that we have all these different perspectives, and we're
it is nice that our triumvirate.
Imagine how boring would it be if we all agreed
all the time. I know. Yeah, no. I forgot. I was going to say something to that effect too. Well, it's interesting because Brandon, I feel like maybe, and this will be the last thing I say about it. This battery life thing, I care about as a regular user, and when I put myself in the shoes of a normal user, I do care about it because you have to make sure you take steps to make sure your battery lasts for your 2-year contract or whatever.
Right.
But as me, who even before I worked for Pocketnow was swapping out phones every 6 months, at great expense to myself. It doesn't really matter. I can abuse the hell out of my batteries because I'm not going to be with whatever phone I'm carrying for more than 6 months or up to a year if I'm really, really in love with it, and that's only happened twice. So
think of the next owner, man.
The next, I actually, what's so nice is on eBay, you can just put that disclaimer. It's like, listen, buy this phone from me. It's going to work just fine, but it's been well used. It's been well loved. So don't buy it as a gift for anyone. So, anyway, before we jump into Windows Phone, just a really quick thing. Samsung says Apple ripped off pinch to zoom. So there's that. I don't really want to talk about this, but I think it's interesting to think where pinch to zoom came from. Because I know I saw it before the iPhone came out, and I don't know how or where. Maybe it was in one of those early Microsoft Surface videos. Did you guys see pinch to zoom outside of Minority Report before Apple launched the original iPhone?
Nope.
Wow. Well, maybe I'm either making that up, or I am, or I do remember it and I just can't cite it. I was expecting you guys to say, "Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about," but since you didn't do that, citation needed. So.
I have only a couple of sentences to say about this topic, I'll keep it short. One is related to patents, and I always try to come in on patents because I like to believe that I know a little bit about them, not too much. The fact that somebody invents something, whether it's multi-touch, like in this case, doesn't necessarily equal to the fact that there is a patent. If the person, the group of persons, the company, the entity who invented that thing didn't go with the process of patenting it, then the next person who either invented it on their own or let it be, stole the technology, patents it. If they don't attack that patent, it's a valid patent. That's what sentence number 1, it was a phrase actually. And number 2, I can accept Samsung fighting back at Apple. And I'm also supporting them. But if they want to attack this patent, why are they attacking it now? They should have attacked it at the very beginning. Go with a different lawsuit and attack very validity the core of the multi-touch patent instead of bringing it up just as a new novelty in an existing lawsuit.
I think it's a strategic thing. I mean, these cases take years to put together, and I think it's sometimes advantageous for them to wait because then they have even more evidence because, hey, look, they continue to infringe upon our patents.
Yep.
Yeah. It's okay. Thanks. I'm Tony. I'm glad, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but I'm really glad that you know something about patents because I do not, and they're so terribly important to the industry, and I just don't follow them. So yeah, I don't know. I know I saw it somewhere, and when the iPhone came out with it, I was like, wow, that's really cool that they integrated something as cool as pinch to zoom at this small scale because I've seen this on like a wall or something like that. I'll have to look it up and see if it was on the original Surface. But
hey, before we move on to Windows Phone, I'd like to share something that I came across yesterday. And
yes,
it's kind of a programming note because I filmed a video about it this morning. There will be a video about it today or tomorrow at the latest. I came across a new ROM that does something so interesting and unique, although it's the way that it does it because it's possible in Android right now if you know your way around. It's called Paranoid Android. And it's a ROM series kind of like CyanogenMod or AOKP that is available for a multitude of devices. And it's especially good for devices that have high-resolution big screens. So we're talking Galaxy Note, Galaxy Nexus, Galaxy S3, in this case, the HTC One X. And what it allows you to do is select which apps run in tablet mode and which apps run in phone mode, or you can have the whole UI run in tablet mode. So this is what I have on my One X. I've got the notification bar at the bottom of the screen like an ice cream sandwich or honeycomb tablet. So now I access my notifications by swiping up from the bottom, which is great because on a big screen phone, it's such a tremendous reach to the top of the phone. Not only that, but I have my email app set up in a high DPI mode. So now I have a two-column view like you would get on an Android tablet. I've got my inbox on the left, the message displays on the right. I've got YouTube running in tablet mode. So if you've seen the YouTube tablet app, it's got this like wall of like tiltable, scrollable, sort of 3D looking videos.
Yeah, it's cool.
And what Paranoid Android lets you do is go into every app and tweak to a very fine degree how big the text is and how big the controls are and whether you want it in tablet mode or phone mode. And on a display that's 720 by 1280 resolution, like on the phones I just mentioned, you can really make things very small and they're still very crisp. So like this is just freaking me out because I feel like my phone has become a tablet in some cases, and it's kind of in a weird way changed the way I'm using this phone. And further, this is Paranoid Android is actually based off of CyanogenMod. So it's kind of like CyanogenMod 10 Jelly Bean with this ability on top. So it's like, it is so cool.
Jeez, that sounds like awesome. I mean, it's called Paranoid Android?
One question.
Paranoid Android.
Okay, go ahead, John.
One question. You said that you're running the email application in tablet mode. Does it also affect the keyboard, the size of the keys? Are they smaller or are they normal sized? Because if they are normal sized, that's awesome.
They are normal sized, and the Paranoid Android is set up to leave some things alone, like the keyboard. But if you want, and it's actually kind of cool, like on the Galaxy Note, where normal size keyboard is actually very wide, it's kind of difficult to use. You can actually shrink it to go go in on itself to be able to use it.
It should be default.
Yeah, it should be. And another place that I've got it in tablet mode is the settings. So if you've ever used the settings on an Android tablet, you've got two frames. On the left, kind of the scrollable thing that shows you Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and on the right is what what that item points to. So instead of this single column view that every Android phone has, I have this gorgeous two-screen view, and everything is super crisp and clear. It's not like I'm squinting at it because the screen's so big and high res. So I've been having a super time with that.
Can't wait to see it.
That sounds awesome. I can't wait to see it either. You had me at notification area, to be honest with you. When you move the notification area to the bottom of the screen, I will be your friend no matter who you are.
Yeah, and it creates an interesting effect because there's no notification bar at the top, so apps now stretch all the way to the top of the screen, and it feels nice. It feels nice, and also the notification shade on the bottom, which operates in a very, very similar fashion to when it's at the top. But now, like on a tablet, you get all of these quick toggles in a secondary screen. And, some some stock ROMs have toggles at the top, but they take up a lot of space. They're in your face. But in Android tablet mode, they're hidden behind a little click. And so you'll see it on the video. It's beautiful, and it works very, very well.
I got to stay tuned for that. That's thank you for the warning. That may go out the same day the podcast does. We got to slide on over to Windows Phone while we're talking about not that. Nokia and Microsoft have, I think, finally confirmed that on September 5th we're going to see some Windows Phone 8 running Lumias. Is that correct? Am I reading that right? Are we finally there? Is this true?
At least there will be a Nokia and Microsoft joint press conference on September 5, and it's just normal that everybody thinks that there will be something regarding Windows Phone 8 and Nokia devices. Now, whether it will be Microsoft showing off consumer-oriented features on Nokia hardware, or Stephen Elop goes on stage and shows off the first Windows Phone 8, it's still unknown.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to seeing that. We've speculated on, I think, every single podcast episode so far about what Nokia is going to be doing with Windows Phone 8 on the hardware side. So we don't need to do it again, just because it's just going to reignite my curiosity and passion and anticipation. So
I look at the Lumia 900 kind of as practice for what we're going to see in the fall from Nokia.
Yeah, that's a good call, and I would like to see, just as an aside, something like the Lumia 900 with the same blended display and casing hardware as the Lumia 800, which I found beautiful, and I think they kind of missed the boat a little bit with that display configuration on the Lumia 900. So. I don't know. And we keep seeing those bezel images pop up and those kind of blurry cam things, and it'll be interesting to see how different or similar the new hardware is.
I'd like to talk to the guys at Nokia marketing and ask them why they're already at 900, because unless they're going to start going to like 1100 and 1200, the names just get really weird from here on out. I mean, and they could have started at 200.
Why did they go with 901s?
Yeah, they could do that. They could give themselves space like we do on the episode listings for 3-digit episode names. But I feel like BlackBerry did that as well, where BlackBerry was like, always on the upper end of whatever series of numbers they were at. The Pearls started at like 7100 or whatever, and all the Bolds are in the 9000 device family, and then they have to like divide them further and parcel them out, and then you get this ridiculous situation where it's like, here's the 9810 and the 8940, and it's like, this is just stupid. And then you get that complicated, then you have to go back down to a more streamlined naming scheme. But
remember when phones were referred to only by extremely long model names, and then they went in the complete opposite direction. Then we got like Samsung Fascinate, Samsung Exhilarate, awesome amazing
super
thing.
Extendo Blast, Hyperglade.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about a renaming of some Motorola handsets on the podcast today. What was it, Tony? Those the Motorola or the Galaxy Blaze is now the Galaxy Excite, or the Samsung.
The Samsung, the upcoming T-Mobile Samsung will no longer be the Galaxy S Blaze Q, but it will be the Galaxy S Relay 4G. So they replaced an excellent moniker with an even better one.
I find your I cannot read your tone, Tony, because for me it's like going from like a really horrible name to one that's look,
exactly.
That's
my point. That's my point.
I was like, are you being serious? Because I don't want to insult your taste in phone names. Anyway, all right, so blah, blah, blah. That's, speaking of weird names, and also in the world of Windows Phone, Chevron, Windows Phone 7 phone unlocks has expired. I never got into modding Windows Phone 7, but I know that the Chevron kind of project was critical to unlocking Windows Phone, to unlock the potential of Windows Phones if you didn't want to run them stock. What does this mean?
Bad news.
Yeah. What's
Means bad news.
Microsoft is
Brandon.
locking them back? Like, what's actually going on here? I'll be honest with you, I haven't read this story. I just skimmed it, so I knew what was going on.
I sort of followed this from a while ago because, just a few years ago, or a little bit more than that, Windows Mobile was the original sort of hackable mobile operating system, and I would make it was so funny. I would make videos about like 0.0.1 updates where like Microsoft would slightly move the start button to the right a little bit and barely change anything. Anyway, so Windows Phone 7 came around. Android was already out. And so the question was, is Windows Phone 7 hackable? Can you do anything with this? And then the Chevron WP7 tool came out, which allowed you to, as far as I remember, sideload apps. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I think you could do some stuff like change the background of your start screen. But Windows Phone has never been hackable, and I wish we could get a developer on here to explain why. Like, it would be cool to... I mean, why couldn't you resize live tiles 2 years ago with Windows Phone 7 or 7.5? I mean, it can't be that programmatically difficult to do, but it's just there's no development community for Windows Phone.
Right, and isn't that strange? Because, I mean, the WebOS user base has the like epitome of a homebrew community that really, really deeply tweaks the OS. And the Windows Phone community is no less passionate, as we all know from firsthand experience. So why is that? I mean, I figured that it must be a technical limitation. There must be something that that makes it more difficult, because I don't think it's for a lack of passion, to be honest with you.
Or I think what happened is that Windows Mobile users, there was a lapse between when Windows Mobile stopped and when Android, or when Android started and when Windows Phone came out. And I think everyone that was on Windows Mobile that were involved in the hacking scene went to Android very quickly. Mm-hmm. And so, and it's a little bit different, I think, with WebOS, because I think people that went on WebOS were sort of first-time users, people that really wanted to take advantage of their phone. They were like the anti-iPhone crowd. But all of these power users were sucked into Android very early. And there's really, I mean, that's one theory. Maybe that's...
Yeah, that is a possibility.
Just to circle back a little bit to this Chevron thing, I think that the sole purpose of Microsoft locking down devices is for security reasons. Unlocking phones is and will be possible officially via the App Hub, and this basically allows developers to test their applications, their early code, deploy it to the phone itself, and see how they behave. Now, of course, people like you and me, or those good folks at XD Developers, wanted to have their own applications without being an official developer registered with the App Hub, and that was the necessity for a phone to be unlocked. I can totally get it. What I don't get it is that Microsoft, I think they have no clue of what they want. They went on with this project. They supported it. I remember the Chevron team going to Redmond, and they had the huge discussion, and then Microsoft officially supported the Chevron team, and now Chevron is killing unlocks. Microsoft is locking them back. The Chevron unlocking was a budget solution. Instead of paying, I don't know, I think it's $100 to be a member for 1 year to the App Hub, you'd basically pay a couple of dollars, 9 or 10 or something like that, for a token, which would basically unlock your phone, and if you're a developer, would allow you to run your own applications or just distribute them throughout the community. So I think Microsoft didn't know what they want, or just now they realized that they don't want this. And in terms of locking and unlocking phones, it was a measure of security to protect users from running code which is not officially supported in the Zune marketplace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. I would think that is a perfectly reasonable explanation for their motivations on that. It's just, I think it's a shame from a subjective standpoint. But I never saw a modded Windows Phone 7 device in the wild. I've maybe watched 1 or 2 videos where I've seen modded Windows Phone 7 devices, and like Brandon said earlier, like, you really couldn't do that much with it, or not a lot of people did that much with it. So
you don't have the flexibility.
Exactly. So, I don't know. This doesn't really this won't keep me up at night, but it is a shame. Finally, rounding up in the Windows Phone news here, this is fascinating. Somebody was asking me about this yesterday, who I met at the Samsung event. there's this rumor that the Surface, the Microsoft Surface, or at least the one running RT, could be released at a price point that puts it as cheap as the Nexus 7.
Yes, I predicted this.
Okay, talk about it. I don't understand how this could possibly be so.
Episode 3 or 4, it was right after the Surface announcement, and we were talking about possible price tags because Microsoft didn't say anything. They just said that they will be in line with other tablets from other competitors. And back then I said that, okay, the cheapest RT Surface will probably be at the same price with a mid-range Android tablet, and the Pro will be around the same price as the top model iPad. And then you guys just said, no, that's not possible. But just think about it for a second. Microsoft wants to be on the tablet market, regardless if it's with their own product or with their hardware partners. So if you come up with a Windows RT, which is the lower end tablet, and you price it $599, nobody's going to buy that. People will go either iPad or will go Galaxy Note 10.1. So the best thing Microsoft can do, at least with their own hardware, is push the price point down. This way, forcing their partners to push the price point down. This way, the entire ecosystem and the entire hardware partnership and stuff like that, gadgets, will have low prices. Recipe for success. I'm just excited. I'm excited. Can you hear that?
Feasible. I can hear the excitement. Yes. Yeah. No. I think, yeah. I mean, Microsoft is sitting there, and we've seen that they're perfectly willing to lose money. They're just going to lose as much money as they want on Windows Phone. In this kind of quest to get market share, and it looks like they're just going to bring that same attitude to tablets, and they're going to, they're just going to keep throwing money at the problem until they solve it. So
they did it with Xbox, and look at them now.
Yeah.
Now, how long did they do it with Xbox? I mean, how long was Xbox like a loss leader for them? Nobody knows.
I think. When did the Xbox One? I mean, it was It was many years, and
like the original, the first gen Xbox, right? You're talking about.
Right. Yeah. I think even when they launched the second Xbox, how many have there been?
3. Yes, right?
No, 2.
The original Xbox and the Xbox 360, and then I guess there were multiple capacities of the 360 is what I'm thinking about. I don't know. Yeah. Can you tell we're not gamers? Listeners?
I mean, when the night comes, we're gamers, but smooth. Just kidding. I'm married.
Exactly.
I am not.
You're
ladies.
You're not multiplayer. You're single player.
That's a good one.
We're multiplayer in network,
and now we're all and with one joke, we all get a little less attractive. Whatever. If Surface ends up to be as cheap as the Nexus 7, or even in that neighborhood, I will be not only very pleased, I will be stunned. I don't think this is going to happen. I think Microsoft is willing to lose some money.
I'll go as high as $299.
You'd go as high as $299 for what, like a 16 gig Surface?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would too. I would go as high as $399, to be honest with you. I'd go higher. Yeah.
Don't give them ideas.
I know, right? Well, we were all talking about this, and HP is not Microsoft. We were all talking about this with HP and the touchpad last summer, or whatever it was, and it was like, yeah, they're going to release it, and I'm sure they're going to price it down around $299, and then they came out and they're like, no, we're going to make this the same price as the iPad because we're, well, maybe a couple of us are not making the best decisions. Anyway, blah 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 blah. I want to talk about iOS. We're coming up on time here, but thankfully there's not much iOS news just because we're toward the end of the podcast. We've had some new iPad mini shots pop up and some renders. They're not terribly interesting. What I find more interesting is that we have a report stating that the iPhone 5 pre-orders are set to begin on September 12th. That was your story, yeah, Tony?
Yes, indeed it was. And it's basically the same day when the alleged keynote is going to happen. Now, I'm not sure if it will be September 12th or not, but there are many rumors talking about this. And it's just normal for pre-orders to start the same day because that's what Apple does. Either available today or, say, pre-order start today and they ship it, or ship it 10 days later. So, but I want to circle back to the iPad mini render just for a second. There were a lot of conversations regarding the lack of the bezel on the iPad Mini, and I don't think that's the case. I mean, you guys have a 7-inch tablet. I've seen 7-inch tablets. You don't really need to have a bezel. The sole purpose of the bezel on the iPad is for you to rest your thumbs on the side without covering the screen itself. Now, for a 7-inch tablet, you can easily hold it one hand like a phone from its back because it fits between the two of your fingers, the two extreme fingers.
Yeah,
think about that.
You can do that when you're standing up, but if you're like reading in bed or something like that and gravity's not on your side,
you just rest it on your chest.
Yeah, but I don't do that. Like, I mean, you can rest on your chest, but it gets too close to your face because you can't read, So like, I have to hold it up above me when I'm reading in bed, and for that I use my thumbs on the bezel. So for me, the bezel is still helpful in that regard. But I understand that there's a less of a case for it. It is a less compelling case than it is on a larger tablet. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other day I was using my iPad and I'm like, I would love if I could have like a glove in the back that I could, slip my hand into and hold it kind of like a canvas. And then I thought, this could be the next big thing. So I do some internet research and then I find on Amazon there are like 400 straps for the back of the iPad. And I actually bought one and I got it like 2 days ago. It's a simple case that snaps onto the back of the iPad. It's got this leather strap that actually pivots so you can hold it portrait or landscape. And you just slip your hand in there and I'm going to do a video on it once I figure out if I like it.
Let me visualize this. Is it the same way you're holding the iPad right now as those, I think it's the pitchers at baseball who are grabbing the ball with that huge thing on their hands?
No, it's a lot more big. It's literally a leather strap and you just slide your hand in it like a mitten kind of. Yeah, like a mitten.
I am very much looking forward to this video.
Yeah, me too.
Brandon, you should have like a corner. You should just have like a video corner all to yourself where it's like Brandon Miniman tries out some weird stuff. Like that reminds me of the video of the what was it, the Bluetooth handset, that old style one.
That wasn't Bluetooth. It was the audio jack.
Oh, it was audio jack. Yeah, you're right. It wasn't Bluetooth. Yeah. I love that. No, seriously, I'm looking forward to seeing that video. That's awesome. All right. Well, that closes out for news, and we do have to stop on time. So we have nothing in miscellaneous. Guys, we have a lot of listener mail. The problem is we have a lot of it. And that's a great problem to have, and we really thank you for it, listeners. It's awesome. We just can't get to it on this one. We have kind of a very busy day here, and we have to stop on time, so I'm very sorry. We're going to get to those pieces of mail. Some of them are a little bit longer than we can read on the air, so we do want to encourage anybody who writes in to do so with a little bit of brevity. We love hearing from you. The ones that we can't get to on air, I will respond to personally, or if somebody else can handle it better, we'll just...
maybe a shout out, Michael, to the guys.
Absolutely, yeah. We have listener mail today from Remington Jackson, from Aeon Flux. Is that how you pronounce that? ATB. From Thomas and from Stefan. Pronounce how you like. Get it as wrong as Steve, and I won't care. So.
Okay, Michael.
No. I'm sorry. That's what he said. That's not what I'm saying. I do care, but I mispronounce everything. I love that people have to say, like, mispronounce it, Michael, because you will do it anyway. So anyway, guys, really, we do appreciate the listener mail. We're going to get to those on some of them on the next episode, but please just keep them very brief. We'll respond to you in person via email. So before we wrap up here, though, we do have a 2-minute debate session here. I want to ask you, Tony sent me a link to a very, very interesting tweet from Chris Weber at Nokia. And the tweet reads, Samsung take note, next generation Lumia coming soon. This was at 11 p.m. on 15 August. Samsung take note is a very, very interesting way of phrasing this tweet from this Nokia person. So... Who is Chris Weber, by the way? I didn't have time to...
President of Nokia USA.
President of Nokia USA. Listeners, we will file that under things you should know if you're Michael Fisher. Sorry. So the president of Nokia USA says, Samsung take note. Next generation Lumia coming soon. The question for the 2-minute debate corner is, do you think Windows Phone, do you think Nokia will introduce a Galaxy Note-like Windows Phone phablet, or just a Windows Phone phablet? And will it be successful? Brandon.
So that's the question. Will they release a... Well, they have the opportunity to do so now that Windows Phone supports higher resolution screens. I mean, you're not going to take WVGA 800 by 480 and put it on a 5.5-inch screen. That would look atrocious. I think it's very conceivable. No one's done it yet. There's the Titan, which has, a 4.5-inch screen or 4.3-inch screen. And I think it would be successful. I think Samsung has proven that people want phablets. And I think a lot of people think, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have this Metro interface on sort of like a tablet-like interface? Well, there's Windows 8 for that, but there could be this awesome in-between, this 5.3-inch or whatever Lumia that has just this gorgeous, thin polycarbonate backing with a high-res screen, and it's like those live tiles suddenly become infinitely more beautiful because they're huge, kind of like Windows 8. So yeah, I think it would be good. I would probably be very interested to use one myself if it fit in the pocket nicely.
Nice. And Tony?
Well, because of the exact phrasing and the time when they tweeted this, we can think about three things. When you say Note, you can think of A large screen. You can think of B, a stylus, or you can think of C, a tablet. Now, Nokia definitely has the power and has what it takes to cover all three of these. But we know that so far, regardless of the Nokia tablet rumors, they were brushed off. So I say a Nokia tablet running Windows 8 is not feasible. But as Brandon implied, we might see a 5-point-something-inch Windows Phone running Windows Phone 8 from Nokia. And you know what? There's a slight chance we might see the stylus because Microsoft, if anybody, has what it takes to bring back the stylus. So basically, all their operating systems on mobile devices from the very beginnings until Windows Mobile 6.5 were basically based on the stylus. So they know how to do it. Question is, do they want to do it? Did they identify a niche in the market? Or is it just a huge device, Nokia phablet, 6 inches, and here we go? And whether it will be successful, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so because Windows Phone 8 and Windows Phone 7 don't have that certain je ne sais quoi which would make a large screen successful. They are basically tiles and text, and everything Windows Phone is just colors and text. There are no graphics. Well, I mean, there are graphics, of course, but not just like in Android.
And the fact that Windows Phone 8 allows you to make these quarter-sized tiles on a 4.0-inch screen, those little tiles are going to be difficult click targets, but on a 5.3-inch screen, those little tiles will make a lot of sense. So maybe you'll have all little tiles and maximize the screen space there.
Yeah, but imagine the text once you go into the settings. Text would be huge. Of course, with the proper resolution, text will be smaller, but still.
Right.
If it's custom built for it, yeah. Which I don't know. I think that it stands a really good chance of coming out. First of all, I think that's a very, very loaded statement for the president of Nokia USA to say, especially on the date and time. When the Galaxy Note 10.1 from Samsung was being released, like at that moment. So
yeah, which is a tablet. It's not a phone.
It is, yeah. But I feel like it's related enough to the phone, to the phone world, because it runs essentially this mobile OS that Nokia could have used it to like try and steal a little bit of thunder on Twitter there and try and build a little bit of buzz. Tony, I agree with you completely in breaking it down into these three possibilities where it could be a stylus, could be a phablet, could be a tablet, except tablet is probably a write-off. Whatever. I think they'll do a large screen Windows Phone, and I think that would not be at all successful with Windows Phone 7. As we saw, like you mentioned, Brandon, with the Titan, it's just it doesn't translate well to a big screen. But with Windows Phone 8, boy, that would be something else. Because with those resizable tiles, like you can make it an information-rich interface. Even more so than 7 does. And with all that real estate and a much higher resolution, you can really make that into a landscape of information. So
one more thing, coming soon, I'm betting a Buffalo nickel that Stephen Elop will show this device off on September 5.
This device that is hinted at in this tweet?
Yes, this one.
That may be so. I hope so.
We'll see.
We will. We are at time, gentlemen. Before we get to the wrap-up, Brandon, do you have anything else?
No, but thanks for asking.
All right. And Tony?
One more podcast until IFA will be there, and 2 podcasts from now we'll be podcasting on site from Berlin. It's going to be awesome.
Awesome. And I've got my Blue Yeti here, which is the size of like a refrigerator. This is awesome. I didn't realize how huge this mic was. It's awesome. But yeah, it's going to be great. So definitely stay tuned for that, listeners. Please, I'll mention the email address in the wrap-up. Please do continue sending us listener mail. Once again, I really apologize we didn't get to it, but we are out of time for this episode, and we had a few things to talk about. So that wraps it up for this episode of Pocketnow Weekly. Throw a tweet our way. As I said last week, and as I always say, we're pretty active on the Twitter sphere. Brandon Miniman is at Brandon Miniman. Tony over there is at Anton Dnagy, Anton, ANTONDNAGY. You can find me at Captain 2 Phones. It's Captain, the number 2 Phones. For a hilarious live tweet of the podcast, follow Joe Levi, the Android guy.
Absolutely.
At Joe Levi. He's awesome.
And not only for that.
No, follow him for just because he's an awesome tweeter as well and knows a ton of stuff. And you can also follow us on our official channel, our official Twitter account, rather, at Pocketnow Tweets, as well as on Facebook at facebook.com/PocketNow. On Google+, we are on there. Just search for Pocketnow there. And please leave us a review on iTunes or Zune if you like the podcast. And finally, if you have a topic, question, suggestion, like I mentioned before, you want to throw us an email that we'll read on the air when we have time, it is podcast@pocketnow.com. Thanks for listening. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Ciao.